So my name is Heather Ranson. I'm from the Gustafson School of Business at the University of Victoria in Victoria, BC, Canada. And Sarah, I guess you should know that I'm also, I teach in our business school, but I'm also the acting director for our Center for Sustainability and Social Innovation.
And I'm Sarah Ivory. First of all, I'm not feeling 100%, so just apologies for that. And I'm hoping that it'll be okay, but just to let you know, I am from the University of Edinburgh Business School, and I run our Centre for Business, Climate Change and Sustainability, so we call it BCAS. We call ourselves an impact centre, not a research centre, because if our impact doesn't lead to change, then it was wasted. And we've got about 10 academics working in this centre, so we're one of the bigger centres. And one of my passions is how to integrate sustainability into the business school. Even though that sounds great that we've got a big centre, it doesn't mean that we have successfully yet integrated across the whole business school. So that's one of my passions, and why when Heather suggested we might talk about that in a session, I was very keen to do so.
Yeah, so we're really excited to share our ideas with you, but also to hear ideas from you. So because we're a small group, maybe we can make time to have some introductions. We're up to 11 now. Can we just sort of go around the room? Ekaterina, you're our host. Where are you from?
Hello, everyone. I'm from Moscow, Higher School of Economics, Graduate School of Business. I teach there ethics, responsibility, sustainability, associate professor, and I'm co-chair of Prime Working Group on the Sustainability Mindset. So that's my major field of interest. Arts and sustainability go together in my worldview.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing. And Jill, welcome. Hi.
Thank you. Lovely to see people that I know and people that I don't know. And I'm joining you from Johannesburg, South Africa, the Gordon Institute of Business Science. We don't have a formal center because we do integration. And my role is really the person that does integrating and coordination of the prime activities and prime responsibilities for GIBS.
Great, thank you, Jill. And if you ever want to look at a great sharing information on progress report, Jill's report for the Gordon School of Business for GIBS won the Prime Prize this year for best sharing information and progress report. It's absolutely a report of the future. I encourage you to have a look at it. Sean Wei.
Well, it's very happy to see everyone. And now I think I'm familiar with a few people. Actually, I just checked the information of Ekaterina from Russia about the sustainability mindset, because Milenko introduced you to join this ACE RME conference. Yeah, thank you for your support.
Okay, and Sean Wei, you're at a new center, right? Your center's just been around for a year now?
Yeah, right. So we have a Center for Responsible and Sustainable Business Education in International Business School, Suzhou, Xi'an Liverpool University.
Cool.
So I think
Great,
for Sarah, perhaps you know the name of XJTLU, because every year we have many students, they have applied successfully to go to Edinburgh. I personally recommend they create a few students to study a master program, carbon finance program. And,
well done, good on you.
Yeah, actually my students could find a very good job when they get back to China, because the carbon neutral is becoming the very hot topic in China. Yeah, they get a very good job.
Thanks, Sean Wei.
Excellent. Okay, and Yuri, do you want to do a quick introduction?
Yes, let me be brief. Yuri Blagov, I represent here Graduate School of Management, St. Petersburg State University, Russia. Actually, I'm director of Center for CSR, and we are teaching, we are doing research, we are sharing our knowledge in the field of CSR in general, mainly related to big Russian corporations. Also, we are working on corporate philanthropy and social entrepreneurship, and now we are trying to combine all these subfields together with the purpose to create a kind of really working ecosystem. It's just briefly.
Okay, great. Cool. Thank you. And Daniel.
Yeah, hello to everyone from my
Oh,
side.
that's true.
Yeah, oops. Hey, Daniel. Yeah, so just a quick introduction. Daniel, I'm from Germany. I'm from the University of Applied Science in Aschaffenburg, and me and my colleague Sabrina Weidmann, maybe you have met her yesterday, we share this account together because she has no time today because we have exam time here. And yeah, we are basically the epic center here to shake everyone awake and to integrate sustainability into our university here.
Okay, great. And we'll just continue with the Daniels. Dan?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I changed my name, so I'll be Dan. I'm usually
Okay.
Dan anyway. So I'm Dan Cahoy. I'm the research director for our Center for the Business of Sustainability at Penn State University here in Pennsylvania in the United States. And I'm also a professor of business law. So I also kind of teach a cross-disciplinary topic across the business school. And although we've done sustainability here at Penn State for a long time, we've only been a center for about 2 years. And of course, we lost one of those in the pandemic, or at least lost a lot of contact in the pandemic. So this has been a really interesting time to think about what our mission is and how we become more integrated. So I'm really excited to hear the conversation today.
Great, excellent, thank you. Emma.
Hello, my name's Emma MacDonald. I'm a professor of marketing at Warwick Business School. We have some sustainability activity across the university, but we don't currently have a centre in the business school, but we're looking at putting one together. And so that's why I'm here.
Good.
Emma, you know Fred Dahlman?
Yes, I do. Yeah, Fred's fantastic. Fred. And Fred recommended the conference actually.
Actually, do you know what? I think I know Fred because of this conference about 3 conferences ago. Anyway, tell Fred I said hi.
I will. Thanks, Sarah.
Okay, and Melissa.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Zakzik. I'm the Research and Thought Leadership Manager for the Herb Institute at the University of Michigan in the United States. We are a longstanding institute. We are celebrating our 25th year this year, and we are a partnership between the Ross School of Business and the School for Environment and Sustainability.
That's great. And I think you and I share a connection with Andy Hoffman, right? Because Andy is I can't remember whether he's an advisor or a mentor, but he's the... Yes, he's one of our faculty members, and he's actually Nicholas's postdoc advisor. So Nicholas can tell you a little bit about him too. He's connected to UVic, my school as well. He's connected to our faculty as well. So cool. What a small world. And then Nicholas.
Yes, hi everyone. I'm Nicholas Pajoli. I'm a postdoc at the Herb Institute, as Melissa said, and I work mostly on strategy, which I think in the past, this gears image, strategy would have tried to put itself in the middle where sustainability is. I'm glad to see sustainability there instead.
Sustainability is a small wheel, but we fit it in for sure. Yeah. That's great. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming. I'm super interested in the fact that you're interested in integrating sustainability into a business school. So I'll just show you the agenda. We're going to talk about the why, the how, and the what of integration, and we're going to give you lots of time to talk as well. Sarah and I have a relatively small part at the beginning, but we have this whole hour to figure out what this is. And the reason, and as I said, Sarah and I started talking about this 2 years ago. And in fact, it was at Cornell that I started talking to people about what integrating sustainability into the curriculum looked like. And everybody seemed to have a different idea about what that looked like, which was really interesting to me. So I thought, this is really worth talking about some more so that we can try and find, what we mean by integrating sustainability. So let's start there with the definition. So I went to our friends at Merriam-Webster, and they said integration is to form, coordinate, or blend into a functioning or unifying whole. And so when I think about our students and how we want them to graduate, we're thinking about how they can use or how sustainability is embedded into the decisions that they make in an organization, whether it's a marketing decision or a supply chain decision or a sales decision. Are they thinking about sustainability? And of course, if they are, that starts at a business school. But then how are they getting that information in our business schools? Does one course in an entire program count as integration? So, if I offer Sustainability 101 or Sustainability and Social Innovation 101 and all my students have to take it, am I done? Like, have I integrated sustainability? Will that automatically mean that students consider sustainability in the future? And that makes me wonder, well, what is the minimum number of units or hours that it's going to take in order to get a student to think about, to make decisions with that sustainability paradigm? And then on an alternate way of thinking about it might be, one class, or so if I've got students taking 10 courses over the course of a year from September till May, and it's accounting and operations and marketing, and one class in each of those classes is dedicated to sustainability. Does that create integration? Does that help the students see how sustainability is embedded in business and how business decisions require that sustainable mindset? So I don't have answers. I'm going to leave this, but I wanted to pose this question early on to have you thinking about it, because I'm sure you have experiences and ideas about what integration looks like, and I'm keen to hear about those. So with that thought, let's move forward to why. So why would we integrate in sustainability into business schools? And when I use the word sustainability, I'm speaking very broadly. So sustainability being the triple bottom line, referring to environmental as well as social issues. So why integration? Well, it's 10 years ago, 12 years ago when I started this, I think it was the left-leaning I come from the west coast of Canada, which is well known for its marijuana smoking hippies. But this was sort of a hippy dippy thing to do, was to think about sustainability and to be dogmatic about it. But now we're seeing some traditionally very conservative organizations start pushing this sustainability envelope, and it's been growing over the last 12 years. It started with the Millennium Goals and then the Sustainable Development Goals at a very high level, up at the UN level. Then we started to see business take an interest, and in 2020, Larry Fink's annual letter to the CEOs sort of rocked the world. Everybody went, wow, you mean finance too? And sure enough, the finance folks, certainly at our school anyway, have really come to the table. And I thank the insurance industry over and over again, because I think that if it wasn't for materiality, that we wouldn't necessarily see them at the table. And then one of the most recent and really interesting things to me is this document that I've got in the center of my screen, Our Future, Our Business Manifesto, which was put together by the Canadian Youth Council for Canadian Business Youth Council for Sustainable Development. And last fall, I got this email out of the blue from a student in Ontario saying, we think sustainability. What? Are you really a business student? Are you sure you're not a geography student? And I just, we've come full circle now. When our students start demanding it, when industry is demanding it, when the UN, when our political leaders are demanding it, it really is up to us to start delivering sustainability across our curriculum. Okay, and then this comes to a very personal slide. So, and I'm sure you all have your own personal why you're doing this. Ekaterina talked about the arts, so she has a connection there. Where I live in British Columbia on the west coast of Canada is usually a very moderate climate. We have the Pacific Ocean that moderates our weather. And that isn't happening as much anymore, and especially this year. So we have a really small town, or we had a really small town called Lytton, British Columbia, which made the news 2 weeks ago. You can see the temperatures and how they were increasing over successive days there, June 27th, 28th, and 29th. That's the hottest temperatures that have ever been recorded in Canada. Well, the day after they recorded the hottest temperature, a forest fire started. And Lytton, BC is at the confluence of two rivers. And because of that, they're in a valley, and the wind pushes through the valley constantly there. So when this forest fire took hold, it just flew through the river valley, and the entire town of Lytton was wiped out. There's nothing left. The police station burned down, the fire station burned down. Hundreds, this is a ranching community, so hundreds of cattle were lost. People have lost their homes. There's been a loss of lives. And so our world is burning, and my part of the world is burning. And I really feel like there's a very strong need for us to start integrating sustainability, or to push that agenda of integrating sustainability in the curriculum. Sarah has a why as well. Sarah, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Heather. So I think you need to click once more, Heather. I think there's something else there as well. So a year and a half ago, I was home for Christmas, home in Australia, and a family wedding, and we had the big fires. You may remember them. And if you look at that map on the right, that's a map of London. An area double that size burned in Australia in one fire season. So that map came out halfway through saying this is how much has burned so far. An area double that size burned in Australia. And I was there. The picture on the top left is the cloud, not the cloud, is the smoke. And the smoke actually made it all the way to New Zealand. So I was in this town called Bright. It's the most beautiful town. We were there on holiday, and we were asked to evacuate because the fires were coming. And as we drove out of the town, we had to look at the people of the town. We could drive back home to safety. Sure, it was a 3-hour drive, but our town was not threatened at that time. And you had to look at the people making a decision. Do I stay or do I go? Do I stay and protect my land, my animals, my farm, or do I go and try and save my life? And what I want to say about my why, about Heather's why, is that of all the things you remember from our presentation today, probably Heather's story and my story will be the main things you remember. Me driving out of that town, looking at these people, looking around at the smoke-filled streets, deciding what to do. Heather seeing a whole town gone. And we have to create that why for our students. We can't just tell them, you should care. Some will, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But we have to create the why. But more importantly, sadly, we have to create the why for the people in charge of whether we're going to integrate sustainability. And that is typically other academics, professional services, and some senior people at the university. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But why matters, and why matters because it helps to get everything else happening. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how I made this happen at Edinburgh. And also provide a bit of a framework. So let's go on to the next slide, Heather, and jump into the how. So this is actually from an excellent paper, if I may say, that came out of my PhD work. And I was studying scaling sustainability in multinationals. And I interviewed 50 heads of sustainability around the whole world. And we talked about how to get sustainability from the peripheral scale to the strategic scale. And this, I look back now and I feel like I could do a much better image now, but at the time I was so proud of this. It's published recently, but that's because I had a child after my PhD. The work is actually from a while ago. So the point of this, and we're going to use this today for everyone else to start thinking, so make sure you have a look at this. And it's about the fact that you can move up from assimilation in integrating sustainability, so making sustainability part of what's already there. That's fine and it's useful, but it should only be the first step. The next step is mobilization, and that's mobilizing all of the different forces, and we'll talk about those soon, to make change happen. And then the final step is transition. And that's when you actually change what's there already. So we're going to talk about those different elements. So the things in black were the obstacles that I found to sustainability managers saying how they scaled sustainability. And the arrows are the enablers, the things that enabled that to happen. It is an absolute coincidence that we just did this in the previous session. So Heather and I didn't know we were going to do that. So hopefully this helps you on that level. I just wanted to stop there for a second and ask if there's any questions about this image before we start, before I say a few other things. Okay, I'm going to assume no, but please interrupt Heather and I as we go. We should have said that at the start to have a discussion. Emma, I think you're unmuted.
Yes, I mean, it looks intriguing, and I would love to. I'm going to read your paper, but looking at that, I think the big challenge, I'm guessing, is mobilization. Like, it's getting people actually to do something.
Yep.
So are you going to give us some answers to that?
Well, we're gonna build answers together, co-creation of knowledge, Emma. But yes, I'm absolutely going to give you answers about how I made that happen at Edinburgh. But as we all know, each person will have different types of challenges, etc. Okay. So one thing I will say, Emma, though, is that you need an aim. You need an aim for this. Transition to what? Do I want every single graduate from the University of Edinburgh Business School to be passionate about sustainability? And we actually felt like that was too big an aim. Sorry, I've just seen Jill, your hands up. It was against your window there. Sorry, go for it.
Yes, it was. So thank you, Sarah. I'm like super excited with what you're doing and the fact you've given us something to read. I'm wondering, I'm a strategy scholar, so I'm always interested in those that look at it from a leadership point of view. So you don't need to answer the question, but perhaps mention a little bit about leadership, because I'm surprised that there are not more dimensions there, but obviously that's what was out of your research. I am also Scottish, so I believe in the number 3 and more. I am from Edinburgh. So I'm always interested in more than just 2 of any dimension. And also, could you actually speak about sort of the interconnectedness and the iterative kind of process that you encountered, that you both in your PhD and actually at your work at Edinburgh Business School?
Yeah, absolutely, I will, and I'll hopefully cover all that, but I will come back at the end and mop up anything we haven't talked about. So I'll cover a bit of that now, but then also we're going to call on you guys to contribute a bit. So first of all, I just wanted to say that the leadership dimension there, so this was a strategy paper. This is what is your strategy? What are the enablers and obstacles? It was a fairly functional empirical paper. And so I didn't explore leadership itself, but the biggest enabler to anything of all these strategy, all these sustainability managers was leadership and leadership support at both levels. Both levels of organization needed that leadership support. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But I do want to come back to this point of what's the aim? Because as Heather said, what is it that makes it work? And we went with, doesn't have to be what you go with, we went with the 3 I's, which I mentioned yesterday in one of the sessions, but we wanted to make sure that we still haven't achieved this yet, by the way, this is still aspirational. Every single University of Edinburgh Business School student is introduced to the ideas of climate change and sustainability. So that's introduced. So you can't get through our program without being introduced to these ideas. We want to convert as many possible introductions to inspired. We want as many of those people to be inspired by these ideas, to engage them. So that's the second level. So as many people, we move over to that. And of those inspired, we want to get as many into ingraining it into their future careers. It doesn't mean you have to be a sustainability manager. You could be anything, but you're taking your career with a sustainability lens. So our aim isn't to make everyone ingrain it, but it is to make sure everyone gets introduced. We convert as many as possible to being inspired, and as many of those who are inspired to ingraining it into their future. And I think that can help you to think about what is we're trying to do. And actually that framing can also help with demonstrating to especially some of the least supportive faculty that you're not here to make this an entirely, and I'll use the phrasing of them, not me, left-wing, an entirely left-wing anti-business scenario. not my view, their view. And so I think that helps to say, look, we're just offering this. We're just offering it. But then, as I'll talk about soon, it's sustainability by stealth. So one thing I wanted to say, let's actually go, let's not go to the next slide. The last thing I wanted to say on this slide is this. Sustainability does not provide answers. We all know that. We all know that. Students often want answers, okay? What's the net present value? I can calculate that. I can give you an answer. It's right or wrong. What are the, I can't even remember them. Emma, you're going to hate me. What are the 4 Ps? Are they 4 Ps of marketing? What are the 4 Ps of marketing? And how can I define them? And how can I apply them to this case study? And there's my answer, okay? Now, we as sustainability scholars all know that it is not even close to being nearly that simple. And so one of the things that I think has to underpin all of this is a business school or a department who is willing to start students thinking about thinking, not about answers. And so if you're in the sort of place where there's an exam where you get answers that are right or wrong, and students not only are used to that, but want that, you're going to struggle, because we need students who are embracing that complexity and embracing the thinking, and critical thinking. So in our undergraduate degree, we now do critical thinking in year 1, because I want them to understand that there are often not answers. And that's the start of their sustainability lessons, even though they don't realize it. And I don't use the word sustainability. Okay, let's jump on to the next slide. And I want to encourage anyone who just asked questions to ask them again at the end if we haven't covered them. But I also want to kind of move on to this. So, and this will address some of your points there, Jill, about that slide. So how do we achieve integration? I'm going to talk a little bit here about how Edinburgh did it, is trying to do it, has started doing it, leveraging enablers and overcoming obstacles. So let's talk about leveraging enablers. Leadership, leadership, leadership. We needed our dean to be on board, but if you do not have that, and we do, so that's great, and so that really helps. It doesn't mean that she'll throw anything at us. She's still got a lot of different things that constrain her, but in general, she is on board. That is very useful. But if you don't have that, the idea is that you have to identify someone in some form of leadership position. It doesn't have to be formal, who can help you make things happen. And that could be a very senior professor or chair who's been there for a number of years, who can help you see what the problems will be. The external environment is key. And this is where you start showing what all of us are doing and saying, well, look, Edinburgh's doing this. You know, Heather's doing this in Canada. You know, Emma's doing this at Warwick. If we don't do this at our business school, we are going to be behind. And this is, I mean, CEOs use this all the time, right? So we use the external environment to say we're going to fall behind. The other thing about that is using accreditation agencies, which are increasingly, and of course, students. And then internal policies. I hesitate with the word policy there. That's from my research, which was very much linked to companies, private sector companies. But some policies can help. Actual sustainability departments we've got a university-wide sustainability department, but also, for example, I try and ask at every job interview that I'm at, interviewing people or at presentations for people, does your research link to sustainability? So just this kind of stealth question about internally trying to shift everyone's mindset to those sorts of things. The obstacles, the internal environment, actually we're going to talk about obstacles in a minute. So I'll just make sure you understand what I mean by this. So this is the ways in which the internal environment is resistant to these ideas. Monetization, really interesting one. And you'll notice that this is the one in my slide that was the obstacle between mobilization and then transition, actually getting things to happen. But monetization doesn't have to be an obstacle for 2 reasons. One is we can demonstrate the business model of integrating sustainability because of demands from students, because of expectations of accreditation bodies, and because of the fact that business are really interested in this now, and so there's a lot of funding, and grad bodies are really interested, so there's a lot of funding. But the other one is, and this is a passion of mine, finding ways around monetization. And that is by saying, what is the purpose of our business school? This is a bigger discussion, it's a wider discussion, but starting that discussion matters. And you won't find many business schools who are willing to say out loud, the purpose of our business school is to get as much money in the door as possible. So you have to find out what people do say about the purpose and then try and leverage that. Internal resourcing is a problem for all of us. It's a challenge. What I did is, with very few actual people helping me at the time that we set this up, I leveraged all of our professional services staff. So I went to our head of events and I said, I need you to run a sustainability event for me. I can probably give you a few hours to help, but I need you to run it. I mean, I said it politer than that. I went to our alumni and I said, I need you to find out all of our sustainability alumni who are working in sustainability. So we've got a list so I can bring them in for guest lectures, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Most business schools actually have a lot of resources. They're just not dedicated to us. And we have to find ways of making them dedicated to us. And my final pro tip before we jump onto discussion, sustainability by stealth. We do not need to be necessarily open and say, my job here is to integrate sustainability everywhere. Because it's going to put that 10%, we had that keynote earlier, it's going to put that 10% on notice because they're going to say, well, that's not what we're here for, this is appalling. The 20% who are keen already know that anyway, so we don't need to tell them. But that makes the 60% nervous, okay, I would have think. I don't even think that adds up to 100. But, you know, that makes that middle group nervous. So sustainability can happen by stealth, and it also happens over time. And we've been working at this for a number of years, and, you know, well, for 2 years dedicated, but 10 years we've had our centre going. And 2 years I've been in charge of. We merged 2 centres that weren't really doing much. And we're still on the journey. I spoke more than I wanted to there, Heather, but do you want to start leading us in a
That's
discussion?
lovely. We're still on time. Sarah, if it's okay, I want to give an example of sustainability by stealth that we did at Gustafson. So it started about 8 years ago. As we had new faculty join us, we would give them a 1-page tip sheet for sustainability at the Gustafson School of Business. And we give them a reusable coffee cup and a reusable water bottle. And the message to these new people was, wow, you know, the school really cares about sustainability. So even though we had this, and it was at least 20%, it was probably closer to 30% who didn't want sustainability, couldn't see the point of it. We were busy talking to that next generation of researchers coming into our school. And, you know, we have probably 3 new people join us every year. So after 5 years, that's 15 new people. And when it makes a difference, but it was stealthy. We didn't tell anybody. We were just, it was a nice welcome package. Welcome to the school. Who's going to argue with that? Yeah. Great. So we've given you a couple of ideas of what we're thinking, or what our experience is. And you saw this really nice model to, I guess, think about how you're going to achieve integration over time. What we want to do now is give you time to talk to each other about how that might happen, or what you might do at your own school, or what you have done at your school, and get you to participate like that. I'm going to stop sharing here and just exit my show, because I have some Jamboards for you to use, but I just have to grab the link. Sadly, my computer jammed before here we go. Okay. And I'll just get the link. And I'm posting the link in the chat. There we go. And so, Ekaterina, would you be able to open up for enough rooms that we could have 2 people in each room, and then that'll give everybody time to have some airtime and to share. When you're in your room, if you could grab one of the Jamboards, I think I've got 4 of them set up. and add some Post-it notes or some thoughts, then I'm happy to compile all of this afterwards, and I'll email it out to you, or I'll share it with the NBS so that they can put it with all their resources. And then we'll have a really nice compendium, or what I like to call a playbook, on how to integrate sustainability in new and unique ways with each other.
This is so funny. I feel like there's someone like slamming a door in my face.
I know. I feel like I was talking to Heather. I feel like I could talk to Heather forever. I mean, this is so, and I'm sure that would be true for all of you.
Yeah, Jill,
This is
Jill,
why I
Jill,
wanted
Emma
to
and
do
I.
the pair piece, because you know, if you get 5 people in the room for 5 minutes, then you just hear a little snippet, or you only hear from a couple of people, and then in pairs you really get a better conversation. Although I'm sorry, Sarah, it is limited.
I like it. We're just jumping from one room to another and back. I like it.
Yeah, well, it's like the musical chairs. Yeah.
I think it's like Harry Potter.
Break. That was unexpected, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it was good. It was good. So Heather, are you gonna? We couldn't use our board, Heather, because we were on view only. Was that everyone?
Yeah.
So we.
I think that was my fault, and Ekaterina came in and let me know, and I made an adjustment, but it might have been too late for you in the end. So. So, I mean, if you do have thoughts, do you want to include them in the chat? Because we can still save the chat. And I'm happy again to build that playbook and send it out to you, because I think there were really good ideas. I'm going to add a link to a piece of work we published last fall at my business school. I worked with a co-op student to build 17 lesson plans, one for each of the 17 sustainable development goals, but they align with business school topics. So marketing, operations, human resources, and they're very broad. They're not a specific course outline, but they give you resources like videos and readings that you can give to your students. They include sort of a broad lesson plan for a discussion, and then they often include either an assignment or some test questions as well. So if you're talking to a marketing prof who says, yeah, it's just like, I don't have room in my curriculum, I don't know how I would do it, I have no idea about readings. Maybe you're not a marketing person and you don't either, but grab one of our lesson plans and have a look at them and see if that works. So
Heather's point came out of this discussion we had of what are the obstacles, and one of them is academics saying, I don't have time, I don't have expertise, I don't know what to do. And so Heather's resource here is so amazing to say, oh, you don't have expertise, or you don't know what to do. Heather's worked that out for you. So I really love that and also even just the fact of what Heather was talking about there, she got a graduate student to do that work. And we
undergraduate. Yeah, it was. It's not rocket science. It's really just time in. You just have to devote the time to it. Dan, you had a really good idea as well, as around from the research perspective. How do you build that research acknowledgement in your organization? Can you share that? And I'll just tap a little note in the chat so that we remember it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we have a faculty affiliate program for identifying our faculty researchers. And one of the reasons that I think that's useful for integration is it identifies to our students just how many people in the business school are actually doing active sustainability research. And it's more than they would think and more than they would encounter in individual classes. So we have a very large business school, and most students encounter only a tiny fraction of the faculty. But knowing that we have, 18 or so, super active sustainability researchers communicates the message to them, gives them opportunities to connect. But also we found that it draws more faculty into it. So every year we have more people saying, oh, you know what, I actually do sustainability. I didn't know that was sustainability. I didn't know it covered things like diversity and equity. I thought it was only climate change. And so the more we, kind of spread this message among the active researchers, the more it broadens it out as a very serious and college mission oriented center.
Yeah, I love that idea. If I could come in there, Dan, I love that idea because one of the things that we found is that once we were BCAS, right? And everyone thought we were just the climate change people because that's where we started, and we tried to broaden ourselves out and say we're more than that. But one of the things that happened is we realized that our marketing department was so focused on issues of food security, food justice, access to food, school meals, etc. These are sustainability issues in a different name. And actually, we debated for a long time whether to include the word sustainability in the title of our centre. And we were going to go with society, Centre for Climate Change and Business, Climate Change and Society. I'm still in two minds as to what politically we had to go with sustainability in the end. But I do sometimes think that the word sustainability actually narrows people's minds to what we're doing. And I was just talking to Emma about the fact that they're thinking of setting something up. And one recommendation I would have is think carefully about maybe you do sustainability by stealth entirely by not even talking about the fact that it's sustainability. Maybe it's purpose-led. Maybe it's society, as Jill was talking about at Gibbs, this idea of a healthy business, a healthy society, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I not only do I think that's true, but let me just add in that sometimes, that can be interesting in the way that it shows the overlap with our other centers. We also have a specific ethics center and we have a diversity group. And so we're actually, sustainability is kind of in all those areas. So it actually, I think by thinking more broadly about it, it shows you how you can connect with a broader group too.
Yeah. We've got 5 minutes. I had a couple of other ideas I haven't mentioned yet, but Heather, I don't know if you were I know you wanted to mention these lesson plans ones. Is there anything else you wanted to cover on your ideas before we did a wrap up?
I mean, if anybody wants more ideas or things about a 12-year journey along this path, I'm happy to share. Connect with me afterwards. I'll be at the networking, or feel free to email me or anything else. There's stuff on our website, so the link that I just gave you there. There's other stuff as well, but feel free to reach out. Go ahead, Sarah.
So I wanted to provide 2 other ideas of what we did. I didn't want to preempt them a bit. I wanted everyone to have sort of, be able to share their own. And then I've got my final message. And Heather, I know you've got, I don't know if you do, but you need a final message as well, Heather. So I'm going to come back to you. So think about what. So one is we have just introduced climate change training for all of our postgraduate students before they arrive. It's optional at the moment. We tried to get the program directors to make it a requirement. It's only going to be 2 or 3 hours of pre-recorded stuff talking about what is climate change and why is it relevant to business. They wouldn't let us make it a requirement this year, but it's going to be optional. So as you get offered a place at the University of Edinburgh Business School, you then get this link probably to me and my colleague Kathy talking about this and why it's relevant. That's going to go to all of our postgraduate students. And what we will do is a survey of those who do it afterwards to make sure we show they love it, so that next year we can say this should now be a requirement and not just optional. So that's one way of kind of offering something free to students that doesn't get involved in the program directors and their courses because they're all worried about it being not enough time, but enables the students to say, I really like that. And there's no better way to appeal to faculty and program directors than saying your students wanted it, right? The other one is in our undergraduates, we do a personal and professional development program, which is about, networking skills and blah, 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 blah. And what they do have to do at the end of that is some form of leadership project. It could be anything really. And we did a pilot where people could choose to do a climate change or sustainability leadership project. And so again, they got some training from me on what is climate change and sustainability, and they got to work with me on what their project would be. And we had about 12 students complete that. It was a pilot. Now, again, we're hoping to roll that out again next year. Not the scale I wanted a lot more, but every time, that's the first year we did it. And so I've got to with 3 minutes to go, my final message on integrating sustainability into the curriculum. Not everything you're going to try will work, and not every avenue you're going to try and make someone do something will do it. A lot of reasons. And so my message is pivot, pivot, pivot. If you come up against a brick wall, sometimes it's not worth breaking down that wall. Pivot to try something else. If you try something and it doesn't work, great. You've learned what didn't work at your business school. Pivot to try something else. And that kind of sense of actually that research I did with the sustainability managers for my PhD all those years ago, one of the main things that they said when I asked, what is the hardest thing about this? And they said, having to tell the same story every time, year after year after year after year, do I have to say, why does sustainability need to be important? And I have to stay committed to that. And sometimes I just am sick of trying to convince people. So it's just that pivot, you know, don't try and break down a wall sometimes. Sometimes it's best to pivot to something else. Emma just asked, while you're thinking of your last message, Heather, how do you decide which issues of sustainability to prioritize? I leverage what we're good at the moment, and also, well, mainly that. So we have an expertise. We have a 10-year expertise in climate change. That's why people think of us as the climate change guys. But we also have an amazing guy called Winston Kwan who works on social enterprise. So he's trying to develop that as an area and build around his expertise. But Heather, do you want to go with your closing message?
Sure, and it's really just one word, time. And team is here just to hear this, so perfect. But time is your friend with the sustainability mission. There's no question in my mind. It feels like a really hard hill to climb, getting integration, you know, across the BCom curriculum, across the MBA curriculum, into your PhD program. But just, it happens. You know, I look back and I can't believe 10 years is gone, and I can't believe what we've achieved. It's, you know, I'm so busy looking forward and looking up the hill that I forget to look back sometimes. And honestly, time is your friend here.
I hate to interrupt, but we're going to the networking soon. So get that from the Scoots platform. Katerina, I'll leave this over to you.